Hey everyone, welcome back to the Promised Land podcast with me, Scott Saunders, talking about things that Manchester United are doing. Finally, Manchester United have done something. It's been weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, it seems, since we had any movement at all on Bryan Mbeumo, and finally we have had a third bid go in, confirmed by multiple sources. Obviously, David Ornstein was the one that broke the news, and we might finally have a resolution in sight. Finally, it's been like a mindless few weeks where people are starting to kind of lose their minds about the lack of progress that United are making, and loads of concerns about whether next season will be any better than what we saw last season. And people have their right to be frustrated. I've been frustrated as well. And obviously, we know that a lot of Manchester United's transfer window hinges on what happens with this deal. And there's been, how serious are you able to take other transfer speculation surrounding Manchester United, knowing that all their money that they have is probably going to be tied up in doing this deal? We know that they need to wait for sales. We know that there's no real tangible movement at the moment on the likes of Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford, Alejandro Garnacho, these players that United can actually raise money through. And it just seems like we've been waiting for absolutely ages. So it's finally nice to have some confirmed news on a bid going in. We don't know yet whether Brentford will accept it. I will run through the details in just a second. But I think there has generally been accompanying in this news some kind of suggestion that this is what Brentford are looking for, is £65 million guaranteed plus 5 in add-ons, the 70 million figure that Brentford have been holding out for. Whether you think it was Tottenham and their bid that did come in or didn't come in just out of nowhere, 70 million worth of it for Bryan Mbeumo, whether you think that has moved the goalposts, whether United actually know whether Brentford have moved the goalposts or not, or whether Anthony Elanga's transfer to Newcastle for £55 million-ish and Cunha's value, 62.5 million that United have guaranteed to pay to Wolves, whether all these deals have impacted this price that Brentford have been holding out for. United, it's a difficult situation. They definitely need to make sure that they don't start overpaying like they have been over the last few years, but we know that this has been so important to get this deal done. Jacob Carr there says Tottenham bid was fake. I kind of think that as well. If you're listening to this on audio, this is a YouTube live stream, so the audio will be coming out after this. If you're in the YouTube live chat, thank you very much for getting involved. I will try and get on as best I can, but please drop your comments in. I see you, Hacker. I think 70 million is a bit too much. I agree. I'll get into that, but I don't think it's massively overinflated. I'll be talking about that on this. Get your comments in, please, if you would. It's good to see you guys who are in the live chat. If you're new here, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the podcast as well. The Promised Land Manchester United podcast, available on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and all these places. Follow me on social media as well at @Dumble_Scott Saunders. And look, finally, it's nice to have something to talk about. I've spoke. Hopefully I tempted fate. I did a podcast for the first time in about 2 weeks yesterday, and I said, well, the title of it was, will Man United ever sign Bryan Mbeumo? Because it's just been going on for so long. It's been, 7 weeks now? Or 6 weeks since the first bid, or since Bryan Mbeumo made it clear that he wanted to join Manchester United over the likes of Tottenham or stay at Brentford or go to Newcastle, this kind of thing. And I remember that happening, and it seemed like that would be done. It seemed as though United announced Cunha one day, presented him one day, then it was the bid for Mbeumo, then it was Mbeumo wants to join United, and it just seemed like so much movement was getting done really, really quickly. And obviously since then, it's been completely no movement at all. And Brentford are well within their rights to hold out for as much money as they can possibly get. But yes, please get involved in the live chat if you've not done so already, and please subscribe to the podcast. I'm kind of rambling here. I will come to your live comments at certain periods. I know that I don't really want to get too distracted from what I want to say, and running through the story, this kind of thing, and my opinions on it, because I'm trying to double this up from a YouTube live stream into an audio podcast as well. I want the experience to be as good as I possibly can get it for people, no matter where they're listening to it. And I'm not a good editor. So fingers crossed. I haven't managed to do this successfully yet, so I'll listen back to this and see if it works. But if you're in the live chat, thanks very much for joining, and I will come to it in due course. So please get your comments in. Anyway, so the news is Manchester United have stepped up their attempts to sign Bryan Mbeumo by making an improved offer. So it's the third offer, according to David Ornstein. The latest proposal is worth 65 million plus 5 and is awaiting a response from the London club. Brentford have been holding out for that money. Whether you believe this or not, like I just said, Tottenham's bid that went in, which was suggested that it was around 70 million quid. Although, have you ever known Tottenham to just drop a way above market value bid for a player just to get it done like that? I don't know. I'm not entirely sure that was completely true, but, you know, whatever. Brentford have been holding out for 70 million regardless, or something near to this. And United now seem to have got this. So obviously the question is now, are United overpaying? Because there has been a real difficulty for United over the course of the last few weeks, knowing that, you know, they need to get business done as quickly as possible. And I've spoken about this on the podcast. They need to get business done as quickly as possible for Ruben Amorim to have a function in attack with a group of players that knows what he wants to do, knows how he wants to play. And if you're bringing new attackers in and they're joining like a day before the Arsenal game or something like that, then obviously that's not going to be conducive to starting the season really well. And United's probably worst part of the pitch at the moment over the last few years has been the attack. They've just not scored enough goals, and they do need difference makers in these positions, whether that's the 2 10s or whether that's up front. And I know that people think striker is more important than this, or potentially going on to somebody else is maybe the right decision here. But for me, I think getting this deal done is the most important thing. United have put a lot of time and effort into this. According to Fabrizio Romano, they've been speaking to Brentford constantly, all the time, on the phone, speaking. How can we do this? How can we do this? How can we do this? For 7 weeks or for 6 weeks straight. It just seems like you probably should have come up with that by now if that was actually the case. But, you know, so many people have been waiting on some kind of resolution to this, and I'm no different. But it does seem now that 65 plus 5 is the kind of deal that should get this done. I'm touching wood here. My desk is wood. Touching wood and thinking, right, surely Brentford have to accept this now. But regardless, there has to be a resolution here. Brentford may want to tweak some little parts of the deal in terms of like what the add-ons are, or how much more United give up front or guaranteed. But this is a significant increase on the last offer that United have put in. So the first bid was 45 plus 10 in add-ons, rejected. Improved offer, 55 plus 7.5, which was equivalent, if you look at the entire value of the deal, to what United paid for Matheus Cunha. But the important thing to note there was, obviously, there's only 55 million guaranteed, and there's no guarantee that the 7.5 million in bonuses is actually added on top. It is so Brentford have always kind of made it clear that they wanted to kind of get the same value, if not a little bit more than what United paid for Cunha, and other deals might have impacted how much Brentford were holding out for. But this is a significant increase. Each bid has gone up, guaranteed, by 10 million a time. The add-ons have come down by 2.5 million a time. So United we know their financial situation. We know the problems that they have. We don't know yet, or I haven't seen it anyway. If you have seen this, please let me know what it is. We don't know the structure of the deal. I'm not sure whether that will actually come out in terms of how much United are paying up front, how much United are staggering into the second year, and this kind of thing. We don't actually know that at the moment, but we do know that cash is tight at United, and the balance they've been trying to strike here is making sure that they don't leave themselves short. Because after this now, if United don't start selling some players, then what else can they do? And obviously United have made it very, very clear to the world that there's a bunch of players that they don't want. So obviously the buying clubs, or the clubs that are looking to loan these players, are probably going to try and drag this out as long as they possibly can. But look, I think for me, and Ornstein's report here says Brentford have been aiming to receive a figure exceeding the 62.5 million United paid Wolves to sign Cunha. And this is well exceeding of it. 65 guaranteed, so that's already 2.5 million more, plus the 5 in add-ons. So that is a massive, massive increase on what United have paid in relative terms anyway, to what United have paid Wolves for Mateus Cunha. It is there's always this difficulty of knowing the job that United have to do, knowing the job that Ineos have to do, and the transfer team, knowing that they have to get away from this overpaying for players. We've seen it numerous times before. Anthony springs to mind. Other players spring to mind, obviously. And this part of the reason why this has taken so long over the last few weeks is because United have been so bad at that in the past. They've absolutely burned through their cash. They've put money on a credit card, a credit card equivalent, really. They have to pay that down. And the cash position, as we know, has been really the problem which United have been fighting against for a little while. We know that they need to raise money from sales, but, it's been I can understand the delay, is what I'm trying to say. The delay for me has gone on a little bit too long, and I think you've seen the frustration in the fan base. But the whole entire transfer window has been hinging on this. United aren't really. We know that we need a resolution to this, regardless of what way it goes, whether it's accepted or whether United move on from this. We have needed a resolution to this pursuit for United to go and move on to other targets. There's been links with the likes of Emi Martinez over the last few days. Central midfielders are on the agenda. Obviously, a striker. We don't know what United are going to do there at the moment. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Nicholas Jackson, all of these players. I haven't really wanted to talk about them on the channel or on the podcast because there's no real tangible option for them to move until we know what happens with this. So, for me, I think Bryan Mbeumo is. You can understand why United have gone for him. You can understand the uptick that he could potentially bring to this team. United need to strengthen their attack, and I think in Cunha you've got a player that is willing to take on shoulder responsibility of playing for a club as big as Manchester United. Has been willing to make that step up and wanting to make that step up for a long time. That's the club he's dreamed of playing for. And Bryan Mbeumo, you could. Well, potentially is the same as that, but what Mbeumo has had over the last few years as well is a gradually improving goal record. And I think United scored 41 goals last season in the Premier League, or 45 or something like that. And it's not been good for a number of years now. So it's so imperative that they improve the attack, and it's so imperative that they sign the right profiles of players. And I think Mbeumo and Cunha are two that have made a lot of sense for a long time, but United are trying to set a precedent for what they're going to do in the future here as well. And look, it's taken longer. Might still be delayed. I don't know. It's taken a lot longer for United to get to this point than I think anybody would have really hoped for. But you could maybe thank Newcastle for that. Newcastle's interest in Yohan Wissa, which came out this morning. I think Spurs have been interested in Yohan Wissa as well. Nottingham Forest as well, who put in a really low ball bid for him. I think last week it was. Maybe that is what has forced United into making this bid today. If Brentford are going and recouping more money for a player that, is another attacker, Brentford aren't really going to want to sell their entire team. If any kind of movement goes through on that Yohan Wissa deal, while United have been sitting on their hands waiting for their last bid to be accepted for this, I think people are going to be in uproar, holding their hands up and completely losing their minds. So I think maybe that is the kick that has been needed. Maybe United are overpaying a little bit for Bryan Mbeumo, and I think I said that in my last social media post on X as well. But you can understand at the same time that it may be fair value given what the age of Mbeumo, given the quality that he's shown in the Premier League over the last few years, the goal output that he will offer. It's a kind of a plug and play option. Good fit for what Ruben Amorim wants. Good energy, runs backwards, runs forwards, offers a goal threat. Is that left-footed right 10 that I think Ruben Amorim's been after? He loves those kind of left-footed players, and it's a missing piece. And I think, given United have invested so much time into this, it's just super important, really, that this one was done as soon as possible. And look, I think a lot of people want a new striker, but for me, I think this deal getting done is the most important one because, look, Rasmus Højlund, I would say divides opinion, but he doesn't really. I think it's pretty much universally accepted among United fans now that he's not good enough to be the starter, but he is still young. He's still 22, 23 years old. Some players don't actually even hit their peak years until 25, that age. So maybe there is And look, United had Joshua Zirkzee as well, and there's other players that could fill the position. But if United can't settle Rasmus Højlund this summer, which it seems like is going to happen, probably this transfer makes more sense. And a player like Mbeumo that they've been pursuing for a long, long time. Sorry, I might be rambling a little bit there. I will come to your comments here. Suvik says, yes, Scott, great to catch you live. It's the first time I've gone live, actually, in weeks and weeks. It was not my intention to do this, but I think a little bit of a reason for that is because there's been so much speculation going on around Manchester United over the last few weeks that, like I just said, it's all it is speculation. We can't see United moving forward really on any of these other deals, like tangibly, until we know what happens with this transfer, because we know this is United's priority. It's been made very, very clear almost daily for the last few weeks, and it kind of made it every transfer that United have been linked with. A lot of them are rubbish, by the way. I think there's a lot of rubbish which is put out there by agents, by other people, by newspapers that just want to throw in Manchester United's name into a story to maximize its click-through and this kind of thing. A lot of it is nonsense, but at the same time, when United fans are kind of desperate to see transfers come through because United finished 15th last season and lost the Europa League final, it kind of makes people a little bit mad. And I understand that, but I haven't really wanted to engage in that because I can't sit here and defend United taking 7 weeks for this. I understand the circumstances around it, but I can't really sit here, giving a strong defense when even I've been frustrated with the lack of movement, the lack of progress, and everything hinges on this deal. Hacker there says 70 million is a bit much, in my opinion. I kind of agree, but maybe I'll get into that in a second. Jacob, hello, mate. Let's see if Brentford move the goal again. Potentially. Look, if you guys see in the live chat that we have had some kind of resolution for this and Brentford have actually accepted it, what I do think is maybe this bid going in at an acceptable level for Brentford means that this transfer can actually go and move quite quickly now, even though we've had a hold up on it for a long, long time. Just coming back to all your comments, making sure I'm trying to find the right one. King Eric here says, looking at some of the prices on some other attackers that have gone, 70 is fair. And yeah, look, I think that's probably around the right ballpark. You look at there's so many players that have not really proven themselves in the Premier League to the point where Mbeumo has over the last few weeks that have moved for 50, 55, up to 60 million quid. You look at the likes of Madueke, Anthony Elanga, Cunha himself, who is proven in the Premier League, obviously, but United set a price on him. Well, Wolves had that kind of release clause in his deal, 62.5 million quid. And that was what the market value was. United decided they wanted to do that deal. And it has set a precedent for other clubs to probably follow. So I think 70 maybe is... I think it's 5 million more than I think I would have been comfortable with United paying. But if the 65 guarantee plus the 5 in add-ons is actually accepted, I think I maybe could get on board with that. It really depends what the add-ons are. And if United do end up paying those add-ons, hopefully it comes with some kind of guarantee of success for Mbeumo, whether he plays 100 matches or whether he plays or scores 50 Premier League goals, this kind of thing. Or whether that's dependent and contingent on United getting into the Champions League, this kind of thing. We don't know. Just back to your comments. Suvik says, in my opinion, Brentford cannot afford to play chicken with this bid. It's an amount that they have never been offered in their entire history. Can't risk us walking away and Mbeumo leaving for peanuts. Yeah, I agree. This bid is, I think this bid is absolutely fantastic for Brentford, by the way. I think it's a really, really strong offer from United, and Brentford, who've been holding out for this for a number of weeks, like we said. Maybe they have won the battle. Maybe they have. But I think United have kind of gone into this and thought, we just need to... I wouldn't rinse the club for this in terms of overpaying. I think it's a little bit more than I would have wanted United to have paid for this. But given the priority of making sure that Amorim has players in ready for pre-season, don't think 5 million or so, or 5 to 10 million is extortionately more than United should have been paying, given the other transfers that have gone round over the last few weeks. AL says, how did Matt Hargreaves survive the Ineos audit? His track record continues to underwhelm. I have a feeling that Brentford will reject it and push for more, says Josh. And Manpreet here says, if Brentford rejects this, just move on. Go ahead with other positions. No need to keep on doing this. And I will double down on that because I do agree. I think this has to be the final bid. Has to be. It can't really. If there's some small tweaks you can make to this and make sure that Mbeumo is kind of tied up over the weekend and he's in by Monday, where your add-on was a little bit different or something like that, then I can completely get on board with that and understand that. But in terms of the figure itself, overall of 70 million, certainly no more than that. And if Brentford are going to play hardball with this and reject it to the side, I think I've tried their best, and either Mbeumo's got to kind of make more of a deal of this. Although some suggestions are that he already has made it clear that he wants this move again to Brentford over the last few days. Any more than 70 million, though, is getting to the realms of ridiculous. And I think it's a fair bid for Brentford. So I would hope that Brentford have been working in good faith. And as is said here, if Brentford reject, let's move on. I completely agree. If Brentford aren't going to, come in with this bid and accept it, I think United simply have to move on to other targets or kind of give some kind of ultimatum or threat. But Brentford have played this transfer really, really well, to be fair. Just jumping in for some more comments here. If Brentford drag this final bid out, just slap down 40 million for Omari Hutchinson, says AL. Look. I think that maybe we had some encouragement over the last couple of days, knowing that Brentford have made Omari Hutchinson their kind of main transfer target to replace Mbeumo, and had started lodging kind of interest at least, or some offers. It is maybe we had some kind of suggestion that we was getting to a resolution here with Brentford actually looking at other targets, knowing that Mbeumo had been waiting for a long, long time in order to kind of make this move happen. But Brentford maybe turning their attention to a succession plan. Niche fan says, liked as a United fan, I'm ordering the 25-26 Brentford Mbeumo shirt. It's on Brentford's website now. It was a reminder of how much Ineos have sabotaged us in this window. Look, maybe I'll address that actually, because look, I don't think Ineos have done this perfectly by any means. And I think a lot of what Ineos have or haven't done over the course of the transfer window so far, you can't praise it. But it's really, really important to know the context. And I've been frustrated, but it's important to remember that they're coming in here trying to make Manchester United a very efficient, financially, a way more efficient financial kind of machine than they have been over the last few years. United have thrown away money so often, and they are battling a reputation of overpaying for players and caving in. And you could argue that maybe they've done that in a sense here, although I think maybe the jump isn't too far to make it ridiculous. But you've got to understand that United's cash position has been a problem. And you have to self-impose rules. Like, I think everyone will come on here and say that United overpaid for Anthony, they overpaid for Casemiro a few summers ago, and they can all look at that and think, yeah, never ever do that again in hindsight. But then you're kind of demanding that transfers are done like really, really quickly. What do you want? You can't kind of have it both ways. I think Ineos are trying to set different ground rules here, and as frustrating as it is, they have to start implementing new ground rules, being safe with their cash, because we know that United need to sign more players than this. They need to move away from that old reputation. And maybe you won't do it in this deal and solidify your reputation as better spenders with this deal specifically, but that's the theme that needs to continue. And you won't actually see it successful Manchester United in the transfer window, I don't think, until the contracts that they've got and that are lugging them down are actually off the books. And they've had a few years of rebuilding the team where they're in a stronger position. They've got more money coming in through qualifying for the European competitions. They sold a few players, this kind of thing, and they have a little bit more flexibility. They're not negotiating from a strong position at the moment at all. And you just have to kind of sink in and just understand that this is going to take a little while. But look, I think Ineos, some people have called me a sympathizer of them, but just understand the context. Just understand the context. This isn't unlimited state money that is coming in. And that was never a real possibility because the bid actually never went in that was worth accepting anyway. So this is the reality of it. It will take a little while. Rugby Itch, hello mate, says, hi Scott, which position should United target next after this transfer? Hopefully goes through. I would have said before this, I wanted to see a new goalkeeper. But it does seem like Andre Onana now is not going to leave the club over the summer because of the lack of interest in him, and B, the injury, which has obviously cropped up over the last few days. It's going to keep him out for the majority of the rest of the transfer window. And I think for me, but I think right through the core, I spoke about this on the No Question About That podcast a few weeks ago as well. Go and check that out. Very, very good podcast. I think the spine of the team for me, striker, central midfield, and goalkeeper, are the three main positions that I want to see United strengthen over the next few weeks if they can. But I understand as well that if United are waiting until the end of the transfer window to get the right transfer fees for some of the players that they're trying to sell, extra income might be limited, and you have to kind of weigh up your expectations. I want to see 5-6 new players in total that can make immediate change to the first team. But I think all of those positions there, I think they change within my mind daily. Striker, central midfielder, and goalkeeper. I think they change in my mind daily about what the priority is. I think I would just say I want to see 3 players signed in those positions. A new goalkeeper, ideally a first choice that isn't Emi Martinez. But, if you're not go and sign Emi Martinez, then you just have to get on board with that. I can understand the appeal. Goalkeeper, central midfielder, you need an athletic one. And you need a striker that's going to score goals as well for me. Robert says, after a waste of time, they finally overpay again. And people are going to be so negative about this and use every opportunity as a stick to beat them with. For me, they have maybe done that a little bit, but you can't really go back and say that they haven't changed things, because I think they have changed a lot of things. Grace says, if Dalot gets benched for Ahmad at right wing back, I'm writing a letter to Ineos to sack Amorim. Why? Why you, Grace, let me know why you think that. Dalot's been given the number 2 shirt, though, as well, haven't he? So maybe it indicates he will remain a first choice. But I think what Ruben Amorim does want, maybe in certain matches, is a left-footed attacking right wing back. So Ahmad kind of fits that bill. Jeff here says, overpaying for the right player is fine, like Mbeumo. Problem is overpaying for everything. And maybe you're completely right there. I think on a one-off like this, I think I could probably understand it. But what Ineos did last year, I think some of the transfers that they got in were half-decent value. You look at Mazraoui, half-decent value. Xerxes, while he's not been a success so far, really was good value. Obviously, maybe Ugarte was a bit above value, but I think that's going to be a gradual process. They're not going to be able to get every single transfer right. Manpreet says, if Ineos was trying to change reputation, they should have got multiple targets instead of just Mbeumo. If Brentford saw some other bids going in for another player, that would have helped us. Yeah, potentially, but at the same time, who? United have been trying to make it clear that they want Premier League proven signings so they can really get up and running in the Premier League immediately. So players don't really have too much of an adjustment period to understand the physicality of the league or the pace of the league. And Mbeumo is that. And there's not really many players in the right 10 position that are alternatives, that are of the right quality for United to go and get. So, I don't think it's as simple as that. I would like to see United at some point go and sign, the targets from other leagues that are kind of more risky, but more cheaper, but have greater upside. But I don't really think, as United stand now, this summer anyway, I don't think United are in a position where they can really afford to take those risks, and that's going to have to be more of a longer-term plan. Aaron says, Sesko Jackson, Kane, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin for me, and we are comfortable for the season if Rasmus leaves, I assume. I don't know if Rasmus is going to leave. I've got to be honest. Aka says, Gyökeres or Mbeumo if you had the choice. Look, Gyökeres going to Arsenal. For me, I think Mbeumo is probably more important, but maybe I'm saying that because United have invested 7 weeks in and I'm kind of trying to save face. And obviously, there are some concerns as well, even from Arsenal fans, about Gyökeres is fit for the Premier League. For me, I don't buy into that personally. I think he does have a lot of really good qualities about him, which mean that he could succeed in the Premier League. I think he would do really well at Arsenal, to be honest. But for me, I think in Mbeumo, what he would offer to the team is probably more important. Jeff says here, Ben Jacobs says there might be something in Sesko interest. If true, I doubt we can afford it. That is going to the last day. Just a quick word on Sesko, actually. Arsenal have obviously not chosen to go for him. And by the way, this is very much turned into a YouTube stream now. So if you're kind of in the chat and you want to kind of ask me questions or whatever, please get involved. I think I'm a fair bit behind. But I'll have to do another audio podcast. Please go and subscribe over there if you've not done so already to the Promised Land podcast on Apple and Spotify, this kind of thing. Subscribe to this channel as well if you've not done so already. But just going back to this comment here, Ben Jacobs said there might be something in the Sesko interest. Look, Sesko for me, I've wanted him for a while. I think they looked at him a few years ago. I think he turned them down to join the Red Bull project, this kind of thing. For me, that's another expensive risk for a club like United. I think Arsenal probably could have afforded to take that risk on Benjamin Sesko, given they have a relatively settled attack. We know that they need a striker, obviously, but they don't really have many problems scoring goals. So they could probably justify going with a younger option now that they have like Kai Havertz in there and he's kind of important to how the team knits together. I think what United are after at the moment is a relative guarantee of goals. And I think if they're paying 70, 80 million euros for Benjamin Sesko, which I don't think they have the money for, you're kind of just getting another Højlund, really. I didn't want to say it that way because I think maybe a lot of people will think he's better than Højlund, and maybe he is. I think there's a fair good chance that he is. But you do take that risk. United aren't really in the position really at the moment where they can afford to go and spend that much money on a player knowing that they're just going to be waiting 2-3 years for them to start scoring 10 or 15 goals because, look, it's not worked for Højlund so far. Right, let's go back to Grace. I'm Dallow's #1 fan. Fair enough. I'm not as big on him personally, but I do like him. I think he's a really useful squad player. And I think he definitely should remain a part of this United squad. But I think what United need to do better and get better at is having that extra threat on both wing-back positions and having extra attacking thrust in those positions. I think it really adds dimensions to the United attack. I don't know if Dalot can really offer that. Aaron says if we intend to pay installments, we should be in for Ekitike, Isak, etc. Look, with Liverpool going in for Ekitike, Newcastle and Isak, there's no chance United are getting any of these players for me. And Aaron there again says Gibbs White's a perfect number 10. We should sign him regardless of Mbeumo. He's Cunha, Mount, Bruno-esque. Don't know if you need another one of those players. Personally, I do like him as a player, but I think what United's system is, and given what they're looking for out of their 210s and the profiles of those players, I'm not sure Gibbs White is the perfect fit for. He's a perfect fit as a central number 10, but maybe not one of those two wide 10s. I don't know. Fred asks, who makes up the front three? I think for the start of the season, I would kind of like to see. With considering Mbeumo is nearly done, Mbeumo, Cunha, and probably Xerxes. I don't think Xerxes' fit for the striker position is the best fit. I think what United need is a quicker player who's going to run the channels. I think Xerxes' skill set is a little bit different. He's more of a false nine who would, like he was signed for Erik ten Hag's system to kind of be that false nine with wingers running inside and being really having a lot of attacking thrust and, kind of offering that threat in behind the striker. And he would have complemented that. I don't really think he's the kind of striker that is the perfect fit for an Amorim team. I actually preferred Xerxes in the 10s. But for me, I think Xerxes should be kind of the main option to start with. And maybe there are certain parts of his game you can teach of him. For me, the profile of what Højlund is probably a better fit for the centre forward position than what Xerxes is in terms of what natural, physicality and speed and skill set, that kind of thing. I think Xerxes is a very different player, but obviously that Højlund as well has massive problems with the first touch, and he's going to need to do a lot of work on getting into positions to actually have chances. So I really think if United aren't going to sign a top class striker this summer, that position's completely up for grabs, and Højlund has not done enough for it yet, and a lot of people are losing patience with him. Hacker says again, not something about Amorim's attack hasn't gelled very well, in my opinion. Not sure if Mbeumo changes that. I do think, for me, like the wing back positions are really important. I think what Mbeumo will do here, in reference to what Grace has said there, I think what Mbeumo will do is probably free up Ahmad to play that right wing back role. Maybe even Dorgu could go over there as well, because there's lots of United have a lot of options at left wing back at the moment. There's chat they're even looking at Estepinian as well, so potentially another left wing back to come in. But you've already got Luke Shaw, who could potentially do a job there. Harry Amas, that United should be given a chance to, really. Diego Leon, who's also there as well. Dorgu, who occupied that position for a lot of last season after he joined. For me, I think maybe the amount of players that you have in those wing back positions should mean that maybe Dorgu comes in as another alternative option on both sides and could play potentially right wing back, given the surplus of left wing backs that you have. But I think you won't really see the best United attack until you get the wing backs right as well. And I think what this Mbeumo transfer does do is probably move Ahmad into that position of right wing back, and it makes United attacking thrust and attacking threat a lot more kind of. There's a lot more threats from a lot more different players in a lot of different positions, like a front five, front six. If this is done. Niche fan here says, while I respect your opinion on Ineos, Sir Jim promised us best in class. This simply hasn't materialized. Then man even downgraded our potential celebration party to a barbecue. Yeah, I think that is something that's completely valid. I think it is. It's not materialized yet, but I don't think the position that United are in financially, I don't think they are going to work miracles straight away. I think you really, really have to be patient with this. I'm talking years in terms of patience. They're not going to just magically be able to do everything. I think the only way probably they would have had a lot more freedom to kind of make bigger changes is if Bruno Fernandes had been sold to Saudi Arabia. But obviously that was a decision which never came to pass. I was always in the camp, really, of making sure that Bruno was the one to decide on whether that move would happen or not. Peter says, I really like Cunha and Mbeumo as signings, but I'm worried about a midfield, and that this is just another season since Carrick that it isn't working. I echo that. Especially, I just mentioned Bruno there. For me, I think the jury's out on him being a central midfielder. And we know that he gets around a lot of ground, obviously, but I think in terms of the optimal central midfield kind of profile that you'd want, I don't know if he's the right one, but Ruben Amorim wanted to keep him. So if Bruno's going to play there, he's going to need somebody who is able to cover a lot more ground. And I would hope that United go and kind of address that over the next few weeks of the transfer window, but we'll see. I don't know whether that's going to happen or not. Fingers crossed, United do find the money to go and sign a midfielder that is, big, imposing, 6'3", 6'4" kind of player who can cover a lot of ground, has really good feet, this kind of thing. Really good at breaking play up and transitioning play and passing and this kind of thing. It sounds like a dream central midfielder, and I think maybe that's the kind of profile that United are going to have to be going after in terms of quality and how much they've been proven. Maybe the money will dictate that. Do you think we'd be talking about wingers at wing back if Amorim played fullbacks there at Sporting? I didn't see anyone complain when we had Shaw and Aaron Wan-Bissaka under Ollie when we played three at the back. Yeah, I just think it's completely different in terms of how Amorim sees the game and what he wants those wing backs to do. He makes a lot of, kind of a big deal about what foot they use and what their qualities are, and he does call them wingers. If you just look at what he actually says and how he refers to them, he calls them wingers. So I think it's just maybe a difference in identity and a difference in how he sees the game from what Ollie had. Manpreet says, I still have belief in Højlund. Very few strikers are scoring day in and day out at 21. We need to give him competition or support by giving him another striker. Yeah, I do agree. It's not a popular thing to say. But I still think there's a player in there. Miraculously, I do still think there's a player in there. So we'll see what happens. Look, I'll probably Yeah. Sounds like Belabor, but we're not getting him. That's the kind of player that I had in mind there. I've got to be honest. Hacker says here, if Wrexham get promoted to the Premier League next season, I'm going to question how hard football management is really. They've got a lot of money behind them as well, haven't they, over the last few years? Fred says, your view on the fitness of the squad. Look, I said it on the last pod, which did go up on YouTube. The players do look like they could be a bit fitter. Given just how you look at them and kind of how much weight they seem to have dropped. I think a few of the players have come back looking a lot leaner. Casemiro maybe among them, Luke Shaw among them as well. There's some other players who I'm forgetting now as well. But yeah, it's going to be massively important. I think Amorim and the staff have given each player, from what I've seen, kind of their own specified plans to kind of go away with over the summer to make sure their fitness is at the right levels. Fitness is going to be so important to how well the team plays this season. And looking at it at the moment, United do still have a relatively big squad, so they should be able to keep fresh, and hopefully they can stay injury-free in this kind of thing. But it's fitness and the ability to run around for like a 90-minute period is going to be really, really important to how Amorim wants to play. So we will see. And Aaron says, should we spend the strikers' budget to sign Belabor or Wharton this summer? Swap Garner with Jackson, sign a free Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Look, I mean, I don't think United are going to get a Belabor or Wharton this year. But I think there's going to be some weird stuff that United are going to do in this transfer window in terms of like the Garnacho, Nicholas Jackson thing. Does seem to make a fair bit of sense. So, and Manpreet's asking me about that as well. How do you feel about getting Jackson from Chelsea? For me, right, I'll bring that comment up. How do you feel about getting Jackson from Chelsea? So, I don't rate him. I really don't. I really don't. Although I do see the qualities that he has. He would frustrate the life out of me, to be honest, watching him. He does do a lot of good work. In terms of the striking profile that maybe Ineos and Amorim would want, I think he does make sense. He runs the channels. He's really energetic. His pressing's really good. But if you're not going to go and pay massive money for a player like that who doesn't have the finishing aspect, I think patience is going to run out really, really quick. And I'm not saying that maybe you can't develop that as a skill into him, but also you have Rasmus Højlund who has the same kind of problem. Although, they are completely different players. Their maps are different and this kind of thing. So maybe he is just a better option in general. I think that the issue for me really is that if you're paying 40 to 60 million quid for a player that has deficiencies, I don't think that's the right use of money. I think for me, if you're going to sign a player like Jackson's profile, I think there's probably players in other leagues that are cheaper that you can maybe take a risk on, rather than paying all that much money and just getting a problem for Chelsea off their hands. I do quite like, look, and as Aaron says here, I quite like Jackson. He's the right guy for where we're at. That's about it. But we'll have to buy a new in 2 years. Yeah, like Chelsea have done with him. So I do think he offers good things. But at the same time, I can't really quite get on board with it. I think there's going to be other better options out there who can probably tick a lot of the same boxes. But we'll see. And you don't want to get in Cheeto's path either. I think for me, if you're not going to be able to sell Højlund, to me, I think you're probably better off going for a more experienced option. Of all the options that have been rumored lately, I kind of like Ollie Watkins the best. So we'll see what happens. Look, I said at the start of the podcast that I wanted to, or I say podcast, this has just turned into a YouTube live stream. And a really big thank you for kind of joining in the chat and this kind of thing. It's a big day for United, and hopefully this bid kind of goes through, and hopefully we hear from them soon on whether it's going through or not. Just checking my social media feed now to see if we've had any actual movement on that, but it doesn't look like it. It should be at the top of my feed if I've seen that to date. But no. Anyway, look, I lost my train of thought there. Right, this has turned into a YouTube stream. So if you've joined me for the YouTube stream, thank you very, very much. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. I do want to do more of these. It's just like I say, I haven't done this for a little while simply because there hasn't been much to talk about. that has been, I just kind of be clutching at straws, you know? So I haven't really wanted to kind of go into that world of being really frustrated with lack of movement in the transfer window. If this transfer moves on really quick now, and we know that United can go about like moving on to other targets and this kind of thing, maybe I'll do a lot more in terms of live streams, this kind of thing. Niche fan there says, so we're doing everything on a shoestring. Okay, fine. Then we have to pivot to a policy of buying only young players for whom we can make money on. Forgetting Mbeumo is too expensive. I think that's just jumping to a big conclusion. I think we said here, United need to improve in the Premier League straight away. That point about young players is that people are really frustrated. I understand that people are really frustrated, but that point about bringing young players in and bleeding them through to the first team, that has to be the long-term goal. But United need improvement on the pitch immediately as well, so they're having to balance that. But look, thanks for I'm absolutely boiling, but thanks for watching, guys. This was meant to be a podcast, like I said. It has not turned into that. It's been very much a YouTube live stream where I've kind of run over the story and kind of got involved with you guys, and I really do appreciate it if you have joined the chat. Regardless of, look, it's a community I'm trying to build. If you have certain opinions, this kind of thing, I'll engage with them. And please get in touch and subscribe to the channel. Get in the comment section as well, and subscribe to the podcast, the Promised Land of Manchester United podcast on Spotify and Apple if you're new here and this is the first time you've seen the channel. I'm going to have to do another one of those audio podcasts probably right now because I don't really want to upload a media started calling the United players who train after 5 p.m. the Five, as if it's a gang. Look, yeah, thank you very much for joining, and thanks for getting involved in the chat and this kind of thing. I think there's always a good space and a good spot for kind of live engagement, and I do want to see a massive upside to this. So if you would like to see more of me, then please do that. But also subscribe to the podcast if you want some kind of like audio in your ears to listen to on those platforms, Apple and Spotify. Niche fan. It's so frustrating. Yes, it is. I completely get it. It is frustrating, and like it is hard. It's been really hard over the last few weeks, but hopefully United have come to a conclusion on this now, or will arrive at a conclusion at some point, and we can finally move on and Bryan Mbeumo can get in through the door. Anyway, thank you to Fred. Thank you to everybody that's been in the live chat. Thank you for watching this. If you've watched it after, and come and subscribe to the Promised Land podcast if you've not done so already. Get in the comments, like the video, and I'll see you soon, everyone, for potentially another stream. Until next time, I've been Scott. See you soon.